Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sunday stream. Today is December the 6th, 2020, and I'll be looking over a few names here today, such as Apple, Tesla, Roku, PTON, Zoom, and a bunch of other ones. I'm going to start off by looking at the ES futures, SPX futures, and where we opened up, along with key levels on SPX and where I see it going. All right, let's get right into it. And here is a chart of futures. As you can see, we opened up slightly higher from where we left off on Friday, which was 636.93. We pushed up to all-time highs at 37.05, and now we're currently trading at 36.96, pretty much a wash for Friday's close. So I will send this over to the SPX chart and draw some key levels where I see us heading. Okay, as you can see, we have broken to all-time highs this past week, and we're incredibly bullish. So I will draw some support and resistance lines right now. Okay, so the first resistance is at 3,700. I have support at 36.85 to 36.80. Next level of support, 36.63. 36.56. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so we don't have any overhead resistance, but usually stocks like to go in round numbers. So for the first overall resistance that I'm looking at is the 3,700 mark, which we haven't reached yet. Although futures did push past that, it's not official until we see it tomorrow on open. So 3,700 is the first hurdle. It's the psychological resistance, big round number. Next number is at 37.15, 37.30, 37.50 are key levels that I'll be looking at next week. Will we end up there? I don't know. Nobody knows until we see what the market opens up and how it looks like on Monday. I have support at 36.85 to the 36.80 zone. I can see us pulling back here. And if the market's strong, we bounce off this levels and try to retest all-time highs and hopefully break it. If not, and we break 36.80, we have a gap fill at 36.66 and support down at 36.60 to 36.65. Okay, so those are some key levels that I'm looking at going into Monday. I'm going to head into my watch list. And I'm just going to stop right here for a quick second. Guys, if you like this type of content, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, for group members, we have now added a few watch lists, extra watch lists to the groups. And one of them is the MJ sector, along with airline sector. We also have low cap volatility stocks also added going into next week. So if you like that type of thing, head over to our Instagram page and check it out. We also offer a 7-day trial. Okay, now we're gonna head into the watch list. The first name, Apple, ticker AAPL. Okay, I'm gonna head over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so Apple was one of those names that I referenced last week in the stream where we were stuck into this 120 to 114 zone. We slightly broke out past the 122 mark, and we topped up off at 123. We closed Friday's trading at 122.14. Going into Monday, again, resistance remains to be 123 to 123.50. Above that, I'm looking at 124.5 to 125. If that breaks, I'm looking at 127.50, which is at all-time highs. Let me just double check that to see if that's true. It does not. So on the one-day chart, right, if we were to break 127.50, I have 128.5 to 129 as the next level. 123 is a key level. I wouldn't enter necessarily on that. A safer entry would be at 125. It's this hurdle right here that I'm worried about that we haven't been able to cross. Again, this is on a daily chart right here. As you can see, we touched that right here back on October the 12th. The next day we pushed back down, and obviously we've been trending lower since that candle back on the 13th of October. We have a chance now to retest that area. So an entry above 124.5 to 125 is optimal. If you're a day trader, you're scalping, you're looking at the 123 mark to break for a potential take profit at the 125 mark. Key areas again going into this week, above 125, I'm looking at 127.5 to 129. We also have the 133 mark, which is essential, and we have all-time highs at 138. Okay. Now to the downside, I'm gonna switch over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, to the downside, we're currently closed Friday at support, which is at 122. Below 122, I'm looking at short-term support at 120.50. If that were to break, I'm looking at 119.50 and 117.50. 120.5 is strong support. It was resistance back here in November, as you can see, from November the 11th to the 17th. We couldn't break 120.50. Old resistance now is support. So 120.50 should hold. If that doesn't hold, look for a scalp opportunity down to 119.5. And if that doesn't hold, a safer entry would be the 119 down to 117.50 and 116 respectively. Okay, that is Apple on the 4-hour and the 1-day chart. Next name, NVDA. NVDA, not much happened. We're still stuck into this channel of, I would say, 548 to 520. We closed Friday's session at 540. Not much happened. As you can see, this 540 to 547 mark, it's been just trending into this little area. And until I see this key level at 552, 553 break, it's no dice on Nvidia. You can potentially scalp from 543 to 547 and 552. But in all honesty, as a safer conservative trader, I would look for the 552 mark to break. If that were to break with strong volume and market conditions showing health, I would look to 560 and 565 as potential take profits. To the downside, I'm looking at 535 as support, 530. You can call that a little zone. But strong support is down at 520 into the 515 level. So those are some key areas that I'm looking at Nvidia going forward into next week. Okay. Next name I'm looking at is Tesla. Tesla, again, is flirting with all-time highs. We just closed below the 600 mark on Tesla, which is quite significant. More names like to move into round numbers, and 600 is pretty significant for Tesla. This is on a 4-hour chart. As you can see on the 30th of November. It tried to break that, got rejected, tried once more, huge rejection, pushed back down to the 540 mark, and we tried to break it again and again and again, and we couldn't. So 600 is clear resistance going into Monday on Tesla. Above that, you know, I could say 600 would be my first confirmation to break, but not my entry. I would look at 608 as my entry above that. So going into Monday, 600, if that were to break, great. I would like to see volume follow through, buyers stepping in above 608. Some targets I would like to see in round numbers. As I said, stocks like to move in 620, 630, and I have at 650 right here for Tesla. To the downside, some key areas that I'm looking at personally, below 570, a good shorting opportunity down to 540 is highly possible. We touched it here back on December the 2nd. Over here, almost reached it on November the 25th. So to me, you know, 540 is an area where buyers have stepped in. See, we pushed down here, big buyers stepping in. These are 4-hour candles, so that's a lot of data. Same here, wicked all the way down, got bought up. Even though this candle closed red, it is bullish. It's pretty much a doji reversal candle, and we're off to the races to test 600 again. Okay, so that is Tesla on the 4-hour time frame going into Monday. Next name, Netflix, NFLX. Not much on Netflix. Again, pretty much same story. I'm looking at 508, 512 as key hurdles. As you can see here, we tried to attempt to break 508. We got rejected once, 2, 3, 4. Pretty much 4 times we got rejected on the 4-hour time frame, and that's a span of December 1st to the 4th. So that's a 3 to 4 day time frame where we couldn't break this level. So going into Monday, I'm looking at 508 as my first confirmation. An entry above 512 would be optimal for a scalp trade to 522, where I would take my profits here. If the volume is strong and there's a catalyst going in to Monday, I would look to increase my position at 522 for a take profit of 530. Support, again, pretty much the same thing as we talked about last week. I'm looking at 488 as key support, all the way down to 477. As you can see, we've been trending into this little area from 500 to 477. So 477 should hold. If that doesn't hold, I'm looking at 473 and 466 as key levels of support on Netflix. Okay. Next name, Facebook, ticker name FB. Again, on the 4-hour time frame. Not much happening on Facebook. I'm looking at areas of 282, 287, and 291 going into next week. We closed on Facebook just below the 280 mark. So going into Monday, a key area that I'm looking at is the 282 mark. Above that, a potential scalp to 287, 292 key. If you're more of a conservative trader and don't want to get caught into this channel, I would look for 291 to break for a potential take profit of 297 and 302. To the downside, 272 is nice support. Held it here. Sellers try to push it down, got bought back up, and we're off to the races. But we found rejection at 291, which is why I say over 291 is a safer entry as opposed to 282. Below 274, I'm looking at 270 and 266 as key levels of support. And that is on Facebook on the 4-hour time frame. Moving along, another name, Zoom. We had Zoom earnings recently, and you know, it seems like the bears have took control of this. This was pretty bullish back on October the 19th. Ever since then, you know, it's a bit in a downtrend. As you can see, the staircase pattern, 1, 2, 3, these are all lower lows, low, 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 low. And I expect Zoom to push down going into Monday. Some key levels of support I see Zoom dropping down to. We closed at 410, below 400. I'm looking at potential 390. I'm going to draw a level of resistance, sorry, level of support where we can drop down to, and that's the 390 mark. If 390 were to break, I would look to short down to the 374 mark. We did hit that back on November the 16th and November the 10th, which held for good support. As you can see, buyers stepped in here, long wick right here, buyers stepped in and tried to push it up. However, as I said, this is on the 4-hour time frame and the trend is low. It's going down, right? As they say, the trend is your friend. So at the moment, I believe Zoom is heading for another low. However, if we do push to the upside, I'm looking at levels of 425 to break. 415 would be my first confirmation. 425 would be a better entry. Potential scalp to 435, 442, and 550 are key levels for me. Personally, to negate this downtrend, I'm looking at 485, 488 for that to break. If that were to break, it would break this lower low pattern that we're seeing on Zoom. Okay, so that is Zoom on the 4-hour time frame. Heading into the next name, ROKU, ROKU is the ticker name. And here we are on ROKU on the 4-hour time frame. As you can see, it broke levels from last week, which was 484. Albeit it almost touched 300, but got rejected. So I am going to draw some resistance points right here at all-time highs, 298.50. And I could say I could draw key level of resistance at 288. Okay, so going into Monday, this is one of those names I'll be looking at just because, you know, we've had a strong push since November the 10th, where we were at 215, and the trend is going higher. So just like the Zoom, where we're trending lower and the trend is your friend, with ROKU, it's the exact opposite, and we're going ahead up. So going into Monday, I'm looking at over 300. I know it does say 298 here, but like as I said prior, stocks like to move in round numbers, and 300, 400, 500, 600, 1000, those are all psychological numbers, and the stocks tend to move into those numbers. So I'm looking at a break of 300. I wouldn't enter instantly above 300. I would wait for volume confirmation. I would look for analyst upgrades. I would look at market conditions. I would look at other stay-at-home key stocks, such as Zoom. I would look for correlations to see if Netflix is also running. So there's a bunch of things you should always look at prior to entering, even though we are at all-time highs. So above 300 would be a good entry. I would look for 300 to break and a retest of 300 for strength. And if it holds 300, we could pretty much guarantee that we're heading higher than that. Okay. To the downside, I'm looking at levels of 288 for support to 284. Personally, we have strong support here at 280. We held it here. You know, it was resistance here back on the 24th of November. Tried to retest here on the 27th of November, right? Finally broke through, pretty much stopped at it here again for support on the 2nd of December, and we pushed to all-time highs. So I'm looking at levels of 280 for key support. If that was to break, I'm looking at 270 for a shorting opportunity, and 265 for the next level of support to 266. Okay, that is ROKU on the 4-hour time frame. Next name, which is also one of those stay-at-home stocks, is PTON, PTON, ticker name. And we are on the 4-hour time frame. As you can see here, Peloton did move higher this past week. We've been stuck into this range of 106 to 109 to 110. And even though we are trending lower, we hit a high of 140 weeks after, 124, then 110. And now we have broken past that to create somewhat of a trend change. However, going into Monday, I'm looking at support at 114. Above that, I would look for entries above 117.50 to 119. If 119 were to break, which is a safer entry for me to enter, 119 must break for a potential scalp to 122.50. If 122.50 were to break with convincing volume, I would look to increase my position here to 2 contracts if you are trading options for a potential take profit of 126 or 128.50. Retesting this big giant candle is of major significance for me, and stocks like to retest these breakdown candles. So I'm looking at these key levels here at 128, 126, 122 as potential take profit areas if we were to break the 119 level. Now, if things don't go as planned and we push lower, we could potentially test these levels at 100 once again. This could have been a fake out, right? Came up to here, dropped right back down. So if it is a fake out, I'm looking at levels of 109 to break. If 109 to break, a good shorting opportunity to 106. And we have key support at 100 and key support at 94. 94 is a key level here. As you can see, we wicked down, buyer stepped in, pushed it back up. Although this is a red candle, it is still bullish, right? You got to see and read the body. Again, here, this candle pushed right back down to 94 around that area and got bought back up. So that is a key level for me to look at if we were to push down lower than 100. Okay, that is Peloton on the 4-hour time frame. Next name is AMD. AMD had one of those quiet weeks, yet it pushed to all-time highs, going under the radar. Not by much, but we did get as high as 196.37. So I am going to draw point of resistance at that mark right there. Okay, so we did close Friday session at 94, which is resistance. As you can see here on the 4-hour time frame, we couldn't break it on the 30th of November. We got rejected at all-time highs on December the 2nd. And on Friday, we couldn't also break 94. So going into Monday, I wouldn't necessarily enter at 94 because we have been rejected multiple times, and you could get one of those scenarios where it's a rug pull and the stock reverses. Now, if you are an options trader, this greatly hurts your premium. The volatility really destroys your options calls, especially if you're on buying a weekly option. So keep that in mind and look for areas of 96.50 to break for an optimal entry on AMD. For support, I have support key level at 90.50. If that were to break, I'm looking at 88.72, 87.29, and 85.77 for key levels of support. Keep in mind, guys, AMD doesn't make big moves on the day. It slowly grinds up, so the volume isn't always evident of how it's supposed to act. So just be careful when you're entering AMD. And to me, I'm looking at that, high of 96.50 to break. Okay, that is AMD on the 4-hour time frame. Next name, SQ Square ticker. Square again, beautiful trend as you can see here, all the way up to 215, and that's been happening pretty much ever since the pandemic started back in April and March. So the trend is your friend until it's broken, and Square's doing a fine job. We did have all-time highs at 215 back on November the 27th. And, we originally tested that high on the 25th of November. Fast forward to December 1st, and we still couldn't break it. So heading into Monday, I'm still looking at that 215 mark to break. You could potentially enter at 210 for a scalp trade to 214, 215, which is fine. But if you're a more conservative trader, and you're looking for, I guess you could say, a better entry or a sure entry, I would look for 215 to break. Because after that, we have a blue sky breakout. Keep in mind, again, like I always would say, that if these levels do break at 215, look for a retest of that 215. If that retest holds, right, for support, that pretty much says that, buyers are stepping in and don't want the bears to push below that. That would be my clue to for entry, not right after at 215 if that's broken. Now there are key exemptions for that. We could get an analyst upgrade. We could have great volume. S&P 500 could gap up. There's many bullish scenarios where an entry at 215 would suffice. However, I would always look for a retest of that all-time high prior to entering, as a safer conservative trader that I am. Now, if we do not get to 15 and we push lower, some key areas that I'm looking at, we have 206 to 202 as support. We pushed as low as 195 where we got bought back up, and potentially is trying to test all-time highs. If we don't, that 197 to 194 is a key level of support for me. If that were to break, I'm looking at the 190, 188, 187 area for potential scalp shorting opportunities. Okay, that is Zoom on the 4-hour time frame. Sorry, that is Square on the 4-hour time frame. Next name I'm gonna look into is BA, which is Boeing. Boeing has been pretty bullish. As I mentioned last week, a key level that I wanted to see break, which was, the 237, 234 mark, around that area, which we tested back on June the 9th. We did break that last week, which was great. So going into Monday, I'm looking at levels of 234 to break for a retest of last week's highs, which was 244 to 242. So a potential scalp over 234 to 242 is highly possible. If you are a safer trader, I would look for the 250 mark to break for a potential long to 268. And I have also at 293. Now I know that these are big numbers. The reason for that is I'm going to head over to the 1-day chart and show you why. The breakdown on Boeing was back on February the 13th, and we have these gaps that tend to get filled. And these gaps have big price targets in between that stocks like to fill. So as you can see here, we dropped down from 276 all the way to like 260 on one day. The next day we dropped down to 250. So if we do get past that 250 mark, you can see that we can potentially retest. I'm going to draw a level of resistance here. We could potentially retest the bottom of this breakdown candle at 260, which could be a potential target, right? And then we have also another resistance point at 268, which was the bottom of this wick right here, where it got bought back up and pushed up temporarily. However, as you can see, the trend is your friend, and this was just a little stop before it continued down lower. However, as we are moving higher now, I'm looking for these areas to be retested. So above 250, 260, 268, which was the bottom of this candle I just spoke about, are levels that I'm interested in. Now, to the downside, we did close at 232. Gonna head over to the 4-hour time frame again. Okay. Looks like it froze, but that's okay. So we did close at 232. Okay, let's just see here. Okay, here we are on Boeing again. Sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. So as I mentioned, 232 is where we left off. We have key support at 225, which was resistance here back on November the 18th. If that were to break, I'm looking at a retest of 210 and 206 as key levels. Keep in mind, this is on the 4-hour time frame. So if you do short 225.83, don't expect it to go straight down to 210, as we do have some price action here that we potentially could stop at 220, right? Which would be a nice scalp trade from 225 to 220 and potentially see a bounce. If we were to break 220, I would look for 210 as the next level. Okay, so that is BA on the 4-hour time frame. One last name I want to look at is NIO, one of the EV names. Guys, look for correlations with Tesla, LI, Solo, all the rest. You know, EV hype has been pushing these names to all-time highs, but you know, in the past week or so, they have somewhat reached a top and have been trending lower. NIO has been one of those names. We had a blow off top here at $58. Let's just call it $60, you know, and we have been trending lower since then. This is on the 4-hour time frame. We did close at support on Friday at $43, which is a key level for me. If we do trend lower going into Monday, I would look at the level of $40 to break for a potential scalp at 38. As you can see here, we did dip down below 40, but buyers stepped in with a huge candle on the 4-hour time frame, which basically bounced from 38 all the way to 46. So keep that in mind when you are shorting below 40, that we do have buyers at 38, which is also a take profit area if you are shorting. Below that, we're looking at 36 and 33 for key levels to short at or have support zones at. Okay, that is all for this week's stream. I'd like to thank everybody that has signed up to Wealthy Mentor Trading. I love all the support that I've been receiving. Guys, log on to the website, thewealthymentor.net. We have great services. We offer great membership packages. And if you're unsure, we also do have a 7-day trial for new members. Just hop on over to IG, send me a message, and we'll get you started. We also have new watch lists, like I mentioned. We do have the MJ names, you know, marijuana stocks. There's going to be a lot of hype around them with the legalization. That's potentially going to happen also with Biden's campaign promises. So look for those names to pop. We have you covered. So, you know, join the group, You have a 7-day trial, and even members that are not paid members have access to these watch lists, the MJ and airline stocks for free till 2021. So guys, take advantage of that. Look to see all you guys tomorrow inside the group, and have a safe day, and uh, let's do our best to accomplish our goals. All right. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.